manager at Matchbox Design Group. I've been a project manager for 6 or so years now. I was a developer in e-commerce, working with at an e-commerce software company for a number of years before that, and was a developer throughout my time while I was serving in the Navy. I've been doing this for a number of years, and happy to take part in this. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Christy?
Hi, I'm Christy Ritter, Majority Business Solutions. I am with the recruiting team. I'm their executive assistant / associate recruiter, or at least trying to get there. I've been in many industries for many years as an executive assistant, construction, mechanical, HVAC, many different ones. So this is a little bit new for me. I've been with them for about 2.5 years now, almost 3. So a little new, but been doing the Savvy Coders with you guys this is my 4th one, I think. So, and it's amazing for those of you who have not done it yet. It's really awesome. So.
Great. Michael, you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Hi, I'm Michael Kimberlin. I'm the Director of Organizational Development at Object Computing. I have been with OCI for 13.5-ish years now. And this is my first demo day, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Laura.
Hi, sure. I am the Director of Operations for Midwest Urban Strategies. We're based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a consortium of 13 workforce development boards across the Midwest. So we help with Department of Labor, state, federal, local dollars to help funnel workforce initiatives. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Andrea?
Hi, my name's Andrea Blank. I am the Talent Acquisition Manager over at Uncommon. We're based out of Scott Air Force Base, kind of right outside of O'Fallon, Illinois. We handle a lot of IT government consulting projects. We have kind of started tapping into the commercial as well as the cloud space. So yeah, I manage all of our contracts, I sit on a lot of different community engagement opportunities. We've actually, I think this is my 3rd demo day. We did hire someone from Savvy Coders from demo day, so that she's now working as a junior developer on one of our tapestry Boeing contracts. So, there is, it was one of those really great people, loved her work, really took a lot of constructive criticism. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, and, it's always good. It was one of those things where I had talked to her, I think in March, and we found, she was still on my mind for something in June. So, obviously sometimes with everything going on and COVID, keep the faith, keep that passion, and stuff will kind of, don't get defeated just if, after this, you're not finding something right away, but they're, keeping those relationships and that kind of stuff is super important. So just wanted to share kind of a little, success story, just with us. And I know there's a few other people that have had that luck too. So yeah.
And Jenny?
Hi, I'm Jenny Fackler. I am with Polaris Solutions. We're based in St. Louis and Chicago. I've been with them since April, but I've been in the IT recruiting business for about 2 years now. So I come from agency recruiting, and now I'm more on the consulting side. So this is my first demo day. I'm really excited to see what everybody's been working on. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. And without any further hesitation, Lauren?
Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. We definitely appreciate your time and attention and everything. My name is Lauren Lazaro. I'm an executive assistant and customer service professional working to make a career transition into web development. I have always loved working with technology. I became familiar with computers at a pretty early age, thanks to my dad, who was a senior IT manager for Anheuser-Busch for many years, then a VP of technology at the Y, and he just always had to have the latest technology at home. So he taught me pretty young, and as a result, I've always been pretty good at picking up on new computer programs with little to no training. For example, in my previous position as the executive assistant, no one on staff knew how to make changes to the company's website. It was very outdated, so I took it upon myself to just figure it out. And the first time that I logged into the website, I was blown away because it was the first time that I had ever seen code before. I was very intrigued by it all. So as I looked for the information that I wanted to update, I kind of studied the code and tried to figure it out. And it was through this experience that I discovered web development. I was really excited and intrigued and just really wanted to learn more. So I did some research and watched a bunch of YouTube videos just trying to figure out what web development really was all about. And it sounded like something that I would really enjoy. So I tried out some courses on Code Academy to just kind of get a feel for it. And I was quickly hooked. I really enjoyed it. Using my logical left brain to create something that I could imagine with my creative right brain, it just was extremely satisfying. And it felt like I finally discovered the career that was meant for me. So I decided to pursue it and I signed up for Savvy Coders. My experience with Savvy Coders has been awesome. It's been mind-blowing and very intense, which I did expect. But honestly, since I've always been pretty good at picking up on new computer programs, I didn't expect it to be quite as challenging as it has been for me. This is my first time learning a new programming language and really my first experience with coding at all. And we did learn a lot very fast. So it definitely pushed my brain to new limits. But I love being challenged. So even though it's been very trying at times, it's also been extremely rewarding, and I am even more excited about web development coming out of this course as I was going into it. So that says a lot. When I'm not sitting at my computer trying to crack the same code for hours, I'm usually a very outdoorsy and adventurous person. So when the pandemic canceled all of my travel plans for this summer, I decided to pick up a new hobby that I could do outside. So this past spring, I started kayaking. And I have quickly become quite the enthusiast. Before I got started, I spent a lot of time researching several different websites, just trying to figure out everything that I needed to know to get started. Like what type of kayak would be right for me? How do I paddle? Where do I go? What do I wear? Everything. So during my summer with Savvy Coders, I decided to combine my two new passions, coding and kayaking, and I began developing an adventure guide for kayakers, which I named Kayak Fanatic. I decided I wanted to develop an application that has all of the resources that kayakers may need, such as a mileage tracker, a float finder, a beginner's guide, and more, all in one place. I realized that this would be a big project, so I knew I'd have to plan wisely. So early this summer, we learned about agile methodologies, including Kanban boards. And this technique has been very helpful for me with my project. I used Trello to create this Kanban board, which I've used for project planning, phasing, and just to help me stay on task. As the weeks have progressed during this course, I've begun checking this Trello board several times every day to make sure that I stay on task. I basically always have this tab open in my browser to remind me to stay focused on my current workings.
Hey, Lauren, I'm sorry to interrupt, but were you going to share your screen?
Oh. Yes, I've always been a bit of a multitasker. So, and I learned in Agile training that you should only be working on 1 to 3 tasks at a time so that you can fully focus on what you're working on. And this has been great advice for me. So I usually only have 1 or 2 items in my current working section here. Right now, as you can see, I am finishing up my mileage tracker page. I'm close. I've completed most of the items on my checklist, but I'm still running into a couple obstacles that I'll get into in a bit. Once I finish that, I plan to work on my float finder pages. Next week, I plan to start learning React and then apply that to what I learned to help me develop these pages. And as my priorities change, I'm continuously moving my to-do list cards around so that they're in priority order. I also try to keep focus on my bugs list, which has items that I've noticed have some sort of bug or error that needs to be fixed. My backlog items over here are items that I postponed working on for now, but I know I'd like to add in the future. My ready to launch stories list the servers that I'd like to use to deploy my project. Netlify used to be on that list, but now that's been moved over to done. And all of the tasks that I've completed so far, you can see here and done. And on that note, I'd like to show you what I've accomplished so far. So this is the homepage for my project. As I've mentioned, my site is still a bit of a work in progress. It's in its early stages still. Eventually, I do plan to rework the design, but for now, my first focus has been on the functionality. But here on the homepage, you can see my header with the nav bar that's attached here. All of these pages are set up, even if they're not all finished yet. I added a login and link into my header so that no matter which page you're on, you can always get to your account information. And similarly, I added a anchor tag to the home page in the footer so that if once you reach the bottom of the page, you can quickly find your way back to home. And then here in the home page, I have just a quick little intro about the different pages that this site offers or will offer with a link to each of those pages. And right here, you can click to sign in or create an account. Existing users can log in on the left, and on the right, you can create a new account. Right now, the user database is set up with Firebase, but I do plan to create a local database using Node and Express. Once you log in or create an account, I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. Clicking sign in will take you right back to the home page. The first page that I completed is my beginner's guide. This basically includes everything that you need to get started, what to wear, how to paddle, how to land your kayak safely, how to launch without falling in or losing your paddle or anything too crazy. I have included a lot of information here and it got rather long. So I decided to add some anchor tags between each section so you can easily jump around and find what you're looking for. It also has an anchor tag to just jump right back up to the top so you can find that nav bar and go to the next page. The page that I've been most excited about is the mileage tracker. So as you can see here, I created a code that will ask you to share your location. That is required for you to be able to use the mileage tracker app, so I definitely want to allow that. And let's see. So let's see, yep. So here I've used geolocation that will find your starting location as soon as you allow your location sharing. And then this current location will update as your device moves. This page has definitely been pretty difficult for me, but it's something that I really wanted to do because every time my friends and I go out on a river, someone always brings up how they wish we had some way of knowing how far we've traveled so we knew how much longer we had to go. We'll know we're on a 16-mile float and we've been out on the water for say 3 or 4 hours, but there are no mile markers on the river. Kayaks don't come with an odometer. And our usual mileage tracker apps, they don't work out on the river without Wi-Fi or cell service. So we've really had no way of knowing if we still have time to get out and explore or if we really need to pick up the pace to get back to our cars before dark. So I decided very early this summer that I really wanted to develop a mileage tracker that works without cell service. I knew it was possible because I could still pull up Google Maps and it knew my location, but I couldn't get it to track my miles as I moved or even to find a path that followed a river instead of a road. So I was pretty stumped and it's taken me a while to really get this going, but I was just really excited about it. So I was determined to figure it out. After we learned about event listeners in class, I developed this stopwatch here, which right now will track the time out on the water. The time aspect is fully functional. I used a tick function and set the interval to 1000. So the time will change every second once you click start. As you can see, when you click start, the button will also change to read stop. Pressing stop will pause your time. So that way you'll know your total time once you're finished. Or if you want to get out and have lunch, but you only want to track the time when you're on the water, then you can just click start again once you're ready to get back in the water and it'll keep going. If you hit start too soon, you can also click reset and that'll take your time back to 0. The location has been a bit more of a challenge. This isn't something that we covered in class, but it's something that I really wanted to learn. So I spent a lot of hours outside of class researching, and I discovered that you can use geolocation services to track your location without Wi-Fi. There's a get current position function that you can use to set your starting function, and a watch position function so it'll continuously update your current position. So eventually I figured out how to use those functions to mark this starting lat and long here. And then to find the total miles traveled, I used an equation that finds the difference between the current lat and the starting lat and long, and then it converts that into miles. That should be working properly under the map here, but I am still working on combining the event listeners that I used for time to get it to actually work in the stopwatch. The map is functional as well. As you can see, it's showing my current location here. And it also has this marker that will mark my current location. The map does move with you as your device moves. The map will move with it. When I tested this a couple days ago, though, I realized that the marker actually was staying at the starting location and it wasn't moving as my map locations moved. So I did update the code to make sure that the marker will follow the current location along with the map. I have the geolocation settings to refresh every second with the set interval function set to 1000, just like the stopwatch. However, I realized in my next test that I am getting a repeating marker when that map refreshes every couple seconds. So at the time, I was just using this little blue map marker here, and as I drove down 364 to test this, I ended up with little blue markers all across the map recording my journey. So for now, I made this look a little bit better by adding this kayak icon here to the map marker. So it still has this blue map marker on the starting location, and then as you travel, it'll just add a little kayak trail to follow your path. So I'll show you a little picture of what that looks like. So it's not the best, but it's a little better than a bunch of blue markers. So eventually I do plan, I'm gonna keep working on this and get it to just have the 2 mile markers, the blue one where you get started, and then maybe the kayak to, with your current location, and then draw a line to connect the two instead of a trail of kayaks. Still working on that, but I figured this was a better way than just a bunch of mile markers for now. In the future, I'd also like to use Node and Express to create a database that will allow users to store their journeys. But once my mileage tracker is fully functional, I'm really excited to start building my float finder pages. After one experience on each, I realized that kayaking on a river is a lot different than kayaking on a lake. So I decided that those 2 floats should get 2 different pages, but they'll basically work the same way. I'll show you a wireframe. It's not very pretty, but at least it gives you a little bit of visual, because I'm really excited about starting this page next. So basically, there will be a search bar where users can enter their desired location and select various filters, such as how far they're willing to travel, what class of river they're comfortable with, how large of a lake they'd like to explore, etc. And then click search, and that'll pull up this next page, which will have a list of different lakes or rivers that match their search criteria, an image of the lake, the address and distance from the location they searched, there's kayak rentals available there, whether there's camping nearby, and things like that. I have a few other pages in mind, such as a kayak matchmaking quiz that will basically give you a questionnaire. You can answer questions to find the best kayak to fit your adventure style. Packing list, because I realize that once you're out on the river, there's no turning back. And of course, safety tips are important, so I plan to add that. But for now, like I said, this is just the beginning, but I'm really excited for how far I've come and how much I've learned in this time. So thank you so much again for taking the time to look and listen. Does anybody have any questions for me?
So remind me what's, if you sign in your email, is that to show like competitive or to like kind of have that network of additional kayakers know once that's all aligned and created?
Yeah, good question. So right now, it was just kind of a starting point, but in the future, I do want to add a feature where users can store the journeys that they take once they use my mileage tracker. But also, once I have that float finder page put up, I'm gonna see if I can add like a star rating that users can like rate it, add their own photos, maybe some tips about current water conditions and things like that. But yeah, also just to communicate with each other, find, different advice and comments about different floats that they've experienced or advice they might have or need.
Cool. My only suggestion too, I know you're going to redo a lot of, it sounded like you were going to revamp a little bit.
Yeah.
So some of your like tabs with it being, if you go up a little bit, like some of these, it's hard to see, and just be cognizant of like people of all ages that are going to be on the site. It's on like the water where there's already reflection, it's in white, it's underlined. It just can be a little challenging just from a UX designer type standpoint. So those are just make sure it's extremely user friendly, whatever you decide to do overall. I think that'll just help the flow, and people will be more excited if they can like see instead of they're like, because I'm kind of
very true,
a little bit,
definitely.
So that would just be my
Yeah,
only thing, like
that.
visually, just to make sure, because you want people of all ages that are avid kayakers to look at your site.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right. Any other questions for Lauren?
I really enjoyed hearing about like your wild goose chase to like see if the map was populating. It put me in your shoes. I like that.
Yes, it was a journey. I'm getting there though, pretty close.
The functionality is great.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, Lauren, well, thank you. If you want to unshare, there you go. And Johan, it is your turn.
Thank you very much for everyone coming out here and spending time with us. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. It is an exciting day. Before I kick off, I am experiencing lag on my video and sound breakups. I'm not sure if the connection issue is on my side or if it's just general channel overload. So if at any point something starts going whack and you can't hear or see, just stick up your hands and say, whoa, stop, help. We'll try and do something about that. I can kill applications and see what we can do to maximize my feed. So my name is Johan, and apart from being an aspiring, actually I am a web developer, apart from wanting to learn to become a better web developer, I also love technology. The first time I saw a computer, I was 5 years old. I remember my dad taking me by the hand and actually leading me into the computer. I mean, electronics and wires and tubes and things. It was a whole freaking room, and I've never looked back. That was a transformative moment in my life. I came to the States in 2002. I was able to complete a GED in 2010, and then went on to community college to complete an associate's degree in computer management information systems in 2014. I was fortunate to get a job right out of college, and I worked with a small boutique company in St. Louis where I started learning about web development. Till I joined Savvy, everything I've learned about web development I learned at this company. Unfortunately, in December I lost my job. It wasn't COVID related, but it was tragic nonetheless, and so I started hunting for a job. I very quickly realized that my skill set was not up to what the market needed. I needed to learn JavaScript, I needed to learn some industry tools, I needed to learn industry best practices, and the road ahead looked bumpy and difficult, but I started self-study through things like Free Code Camp, Code Academy, online meetups, and that is where I met Savvy Coders. I was in a meetup one evening where they were doing some JavaScript classes, and I met Des from Savvy Coders, and the rest is history. That's what brings me here to Savvy Coders. So apart from that intro, basically what I hope to learn here at Savvy is the tools and the wherewithal to go on to a new job, continue my passion as a web developer. I am not only a web developer, I'm also a martial arts enthusiast. My sport of choice is the Filipino martial arts, and in particular stick fighting. And so for my capstone project, I built a little application I call FMA Stick Finder. So allow me here to share my screen with you folks, and I will show you what that is all about. Alrighty. Can you see my screen, folks?
Yes.
Alrighty, thank you very much. Okay, I decided to build the STIX FMA Fun Finder. And let me go on to explain what the Fun Finder is all about. Now, I mentioned that I am a martial arts enthusiast, and hold on. There we go, something went wrong, as usual. Good presentation is not a good presentation if something doesn't screw up, right? Oh my word. Quick presentation in reverse. Alrighty. The Filipino martial arts are one of the fastest growing martial arts in the world. It isn't just a great sport, it's a very easy sport for anyone to learn, whether you're a kid or an adult or a more mature adult. It's also one of the most effective martial arts systems in the world. And what I like about FMA and practicing my martial art is the social aspect. We are very social. We get together in groups to work out together to learn our art, learn our sport. So yeah, apart from COVID, in general, it is actually hard to find venues and events where folks can go to practice FMA. So that's why I've built the FMA Fun Finder. The STIX FMA Fun Finder is an attempt to help FMA enthusiasts find each other so we can practice our sport together. My application is an application that I think is unique. There's only one other similar product available on the market. It's a general martial arts search function, and it's a paid application. My application is better. It is specific to the FMA sport, and it is free to use. Soon my application will also feature every event and location within the whole of North America, and I hope to expand that. Who knows, one day we'll have the STIX FMA Fun Finder for the whole world, I hope. One of the good things about this application, I believe, not only is it going to help enthusiasts to find each other, it's going to help schools and clubs grow their business and just generally help to grow the Filipino martial arts, certainly in North America. I used, like all my other classmates, a lot of tools to build my project. One of the key applications that we all used was Trello, and I also built myself a Kanban style board so that I could track the progress of my project. I built myself different swim lanes, I had planning, I've got a backlog, yada yada yada, etc, etc. And I think the most exciting part is when one gets to the end of the line and you see everything that you were able to accomplish. And I have to agree with Lauren, if it wasn't for this Trello board, I am not quite sure where I would have ended up, because we had a lot to do in a short time. And having a project plan to guide us step by step has definitely helped me. I tend to get a little in depth in things. I like to go detailed, so I'd get stuck on one thing and forget about the rest. But thanks to my Trello board, I was able to stay on task and working only 3 cards at a time. As you can see, in progress and testing, there are only 3 cards at a time. I was able to get the job done. So yeah, this is my Trello board. We also all used GitHub as our repository to do our version control. And you can go and look at my GitHub. It's a public repository. And inside my GitHub, in my capstone project, I have all my files, all my code, And I also have my documentation. In my documentation file, I've saved everything as far as the planning is concerned for my project. I've got my SWOT analysis, I've got my wireframes. Let me show you one of my digital wireframes. My hand-drawn wireframes are horrible, so we'll stick with the digital versions. And this really helped me to have a visual picture to think while I was designing, and then when it got to coding, to translate the image to code. It was easier to see something in a wireframe. It was also easier to think through issues and problems with layout, etc., etc. So wireframes are very, very helpful. Here's a direct link to the documents, but as we've looked at that already, let's move on. Our projects were coded in VS Code, and we used Node. I started out my project just building HTML and CSS pages. With my web development background, working at the company where I was before, I'm very comfortable with HTML and CSS, and so I built my app and it was working and I was happy. And then I started adding vanilla JavaScript functionality, clicks to the buttons, listeners, and all kinds of stuff, and converted to a single page application. That's where the fun started. Apart from JavaScript, I've implemented an API in my project. I will show you shortly. The heart of the project of the Fun Finder is to find venues. So I used a zip code API. I used Firebase initially for all of my data, but I ran into a little issue there. I had more data than Firebase wanted me to use. So I got a little email saying I've exceeded my quota. That's a different story. I moved my data from Firebase into a JSON store, and so I fetch portions of my data from the JSON store to present results when we search for the fun. I also used FormSpree to manage my forms, because I have several forms on the website that I'll show you shortly. And then I hosted my project on Netlify. On my next slide, here is the address to my Netlify project, and I can drop that for you in chat if you want to follow along. Just give me a moment. Oops. Pull that over here. Of course, now it will not work. I cannot get to the chat. Fantastic. Anywho, I promise to drop this in chat after the fact. Let's go on to take a look at the product itself. As I said, I am hosting the STIX Fun Finder on Netlify, and this is the homepage. Basically tells you, welcome to the STIX Fun Finder. All my banner areas are clickable. Clicking on the logo or clicking on the name brings you right back here to the home page. I have a disclaimer area here in the bottom that is totally clickable. Clicking on it will take you to the disclaimer pages. And then, as I said, when you click on the banner, you go back to the home page. Every time a page refreshes, the images here on the right hand side of the page reload, and that's for a specific reason. We'll get to that shortly. The rest of my navigation is in the bottom corner of the screen. I have a contact button and I have an About Us button. When you go to the About Us page, which is now impossible to get to because of, oh my word, because of Zoom, no problem. I also have a hamburger up in the right hand corner that gives access to all the functionality of my website. So when you hit the contact button, you go to the contact form where you can contact the admins or the organizers of the Fun Finder. So for instance, you would say, hey, my name is Joe, and my email address is I have a message. Good wishes to you. And these forms are run through FormSpree, but I wrote a little function to capture FormSpree's default page so that when my user clicks on the send button, they are not taken away from the Fun Finder website, but in actual fact stay on the Fun Finder website. Every time we click the home button, we can go back to home. And from the home button, we have access to the most important function on our website. The function is the search function. You'll notice below the search button, there's also another button. This is to add additional information. I'll speak about that in a moment. But let's go and look at our search function. This is where the magic happens. It's very simple to find FMA activities or events. We simply add a zip code. Let's go with a Chicago zip code and let's search big. We add a radius and then we hit the search. And it comes back with all the available venues and activities for FMA sports enthusiasts within a 100-mile radius of Chicago. I also have some drop-down filters here. You can filter by type of venue or event, a club, a school, a group, an event, or you can filter by style. So for instance, if you are more interested in the Arnis style, you can click and it will bring back Arnis. Or you can click on Eskrima and it will bring back Eskrima. I mentioned about the button down here to add information. This is another form. It's more in depth, it's more specific. Here I ask community members, FMA enthusiasts to add information. And this, I believe, is one of the most important parts of the FMA Fun Finder. As a community, we are just generally helpful and we like to help each other and spread the word. And by providing this form, the community becomes involved and this becomes a community sourced application. The more folks participate, the more information they add, the more helpful this becomes. And that's why I'm so confident that soon, the FMA Fun Finder will provide venues and events for all of North America. In the process of building my application, I had quite a few obstacles. My main obstacle was getting data. This validates absolutely 100% the reason for this app. It was incredibly hard finding data about FMA venues and events. And eventually I resorted to scraping the web, just downloading everything I could find, addresses, emails, telephone numbers. And the hard part came after that. I spent weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, cleaning up data, formatting data, to get it into a presentable JSON so that I could save it in a data set to use. Very important lesson I learned here: never use Microsoft tools to manipulate data. Microsoft just does unspeakable things to text formatting. So I had to use tools that produce only pure ASCII text. So when you try and parse anything that's not ASCII, then it blows up. Something else that I feel I might change, or I might not, is the UI and UX design. I've received some feedback from folks who've tested my application, and some folks didn't quite like the idea of the navigation buttons at the bottom, or the fixed header and the fixed footer. So because of the feedback, I added the little hamburger in the corner which drops down all the menu options, which gives access to every aspect of the website. In future, I might change this, or yeah, it could be changed. Also the colors and the look, it can be skinned, because the app is so simple. It does what it's supposed to do in a very efficient way, and so all the rest is just trimming. It's like icing on the cake, and that's the kind of thing you can change and adapt to the flavor of your audience. The other thing that was very challenging for me was coming from a traditional web design environment. I'm good with HTML and CSS, but converting to a single page application using JavaScript and the JavaScript frameworks has been very challenging. Like Lauren, I can absolutely confirm we learned a tremendous amount of stuff in a very short time, and I'm still learning. I really enjoy JavaScript, and I'm going to continue my path with JavaScript into the future. Speaking of the future, as they say in the TV ads, there's more, folks. Actually, the Fun Finder is a concept. It's not an application. Because the Fun Finder is so simple, one can take this idea and use it for anything. So you're into ice fishing, No problem, let's make you a fun finder for ice fishing. A knitting circle maybe? Alright, we skin this application and we can input data on knitting circles, book clubs, organic florists, whatever you like. The concept is solid and the concept is so incredibly simple that it can be used for anything you can imagine basically. I want to continue developing this app. Lauren mentioned, and some of my other fellow students will also mention, I want to get a handle on Node and on Next because simply I need to be able to build myself a Postgres SQL database to just host all my data. I feel it will be simpler if through Postgres I can host my data. It'll help with search and with sort and with all that kind of stuff and building relationships to different tables so that one can expand the information. I'm currently working on a login section for my website. I didn't quite demonstrate that, but I can quickly show you here. I have a login section that I've started working on. Right now I've only set up an admin account. Basically you put in your username and put in your address. And then Gmail does not have an E. Put in your password. And you, oh crud, did I misspell the password? What was that password? Let's try that again. You might have noticed that the user was just warned that they supplied the wrong password and that they have 3 more tries left. After the 4th incorrect attempt at logging in, a user will be locked out and they will have to contact admin to have their account unlocked. So let's see. Ah, there we go, I got it right this time. So as the admin, fortunately I still have access to the website. This area is still under development, but in this user profile section, user will have access first of all to their own account, change their password, update their user account. And the reason for this is I want to develop the capability where event owners or venue owners can update the information on their club, their school, the event. I also want to be able to expand that information, maybe add some pictures, you know, even like a Google Map plugin, and that will all need to be hosted in a database. So through this interface, I want to also create a database interface where an owner can come and update information as it changes, add to it, etc., etc., etc. That's why we're busy developing this user login section, because I don't want to be stuck, you know, taking care of all the data all the time. I want to be able to give users ownership, because this is what the whole STIX Fun Finder is about, where the community takes ownership. We can log out, takes us back to the home page. So that is one of the future developments I'm working on. Yeah, I've mentioned that I want to expand the information as far as clubs and venues are concerned, and then also look at maybe getting sponsorship for the application with the handy dandy images that revolve here in the right hand side. I have a ready-made area where sponsors or vendors can host adverts, advertise their products or whatever. And that, folks, is pretty much the Fun Finder. Are there any questions at this point in time?
Johan, I'm curious, you mentioned that you had trouble parsing your data and getting it into the right format. What did you end up switching to after realizing that using Microsoft wasn't going to be the best path forward?
I used Sublime Text, was one of my go-to tools. I also just used simple text editor, and I used online tools to help me build my JSON. I just fed in this one hell of a big piece of CVS split data, and this app fortunately was very kind and spat out a nice JSON data set.
Nice, nice. Sublime's a great tool for that. I would also, the only other one that comes to mind right at the moment that I would recommend would be VS Code if you haven't played around with it.
Which one?
VS Code.
Yeah, we actually coded in VS Code. My whole app was built in VS Code.
Oh, nice. You could use that to format data as well.
Oh, I did not know that. So that is something I can go and learn about. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Any other?
So, yeah, I noticed that you're using Parcel to build and package your app. So how did you run across Parcel, and what led you to move forward with that as the basis of your app?
We were recommended to install Node and use Node, and then we were told to use Parcel to build our single page application, because single page applications have to be built. They can't just be run into a web browser without being built by a packager. And so as we were recommended to use Parcel, we went with the recommendations. I think the idea was for us to host on Heroku, but there were issues, and so most of us ended up just hosting on Netlify at this stage. I definitely have plans to get this whole Node and Next thing sorted, learn it well, so that we can host on Heroku and I can deploy a Postgres SQL database. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Well done.
I had a question. Was your background in advertising or marketing? You're just one of the only people I've seen that on the demo day that have had a placeholder kind of for that, avenue or advertising, revenue driven kind of stream. So I was just curious what your background was. I know you had said, I think you had some web experience, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, no, actually I don't have formal marketing background, although I've dabbled in many things. As an IT generalist, I've worn many hats. I understand social media and the importance of monetizing products, and I see the application for doing something like this with a Fun Finder. The Fun Finder concept would be more attractive to investors if you can show them an opportunity for ROI.
Yeah, I know. It's really good. I mean, that's a huge part of, I've worked in advertising and marketing for a really long time. So yeah, well done on that.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions?
Johan, you mentioned being able to kind of skin the content from this because it's a great application for pretty much whatever search you want to do. Do you have any other interests that you think this would work great for?
Whatever you like. Honestly, Drake, if, for instance, somebody has some other idea that they want to monetize or just advertise, if you have a data set that you can plug in so that users will have a response when they search for something, the Fun Finder will work for you. I mean, changing what it looks like in the HTML and CSS is very easy. I built it in such a way that you can just change the colors, change the images. The concept, the framework, the bones, the JavaScript stays the same. But the decorations can be adapted to whatever. Say, for instance, you're looking for, you're one of these car mechanic enthusiasts and you want to start up a Corvette club finder, hey, call me up. I'll help you with that.
That's great.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, Johan, thank you. That was
Thank
awesome.
you folks very much for your time. I greatly appreciate your patience in listening. Let me stop sharing my screen and then. Boom.
All right, Drake, you're up next.
Perfect. Let me pull up. I just have some slides to go on while we're doing everything, so I'll pull that up. All right, is my screen shared yet, everybody? There we go. All right, can everybody see my screen? Perfect. All right, hello everybody. My name is Drake Smelser. I'm a current optical supervisor at Warby Parker. I have a bachelor's in biology that I obtained in 2017, and I got to my current professional role because I'm super interested in science, and once upon a time I wanted to go to medical school, but I decided that wasn't for me. So one thing I did in college was I worked at an optical shop throughout it, and I transferred to St. Louis, found Warby Parker, which is a company I love. They're very innovative and everything, and I found a kind of haven there. But I've always had many interests outside of professional life as it is. I'm kind of a hobbyist, so I try to wear a lot of hats. And with my family, one thing I want to impart on my daughter is the idea that you can do things outside of what you get paid for. That does not define you. You can do 1,000 things. And that's kind of how I stumbled across Savvy Coders. My brother-in-law is a manager of some devs over in Denver, and he kind of told me, look at this, take this class. And then eventually I was in a meetup and I met Des, the director at Savvy Coders, and now I'm here. So yeah, foremost, I'm a family man, so I like to do every decision I make in the best interest of my family. And I want my daughter to kind of like have the idea that she can do night classes, change careers, do anything she wants. And that's, why I'm here too. And when I said too many interests, it kind of plays in with my single page application. I'm interested in a lot of things, and I think people lack a creative space that doesn't cost an arm and a leg to pursue. If you want to paint, you have to, find a venue, you got to rent this. If you want to play music, you got to, contact people that don't want to let you play. So I created my app, Hobbytat. Hobbytat is a moneyless marketplace for exchanging skills and hobbies with other people in your community. It's similar to a dating app. So users create a profile that showcases their hobbies, some links to relevant work that they've done for their hobby, some photos, and links to social media pages. You're also allowed on my app to kind of list the interests that you want to find on my app. So let's say you're a photographer, but you kind of want to brush up on Photoshop. You could put that in your interest. And if you come across somebody that knows Photoshop, but wants to learn some better practical skills with photography, you guys can start a chat, and then eventually you can start an exchange, which you would schedule, and hopefully meet in person and do that. If not, at least you connected with a community member. One of the unique advantages I think my app holds over other moneyless marketplaces like Craigslist and Angie's List is the fact that it's so simple. I think one of the reasons dating apps are really successful is because they've gamified this terribly awkward thing. And I don't want to be caught in a parking lot getting a painting from somebody on Craigslist. I'd rather, meet them, chat, get a dialogue, and add some personality to it. So that's why I'm here with this app. Similar to my forebears here, I use Trello organizations to do a Kanban board, and I found that was super beneficial because if you can have the phone app, you can have your tab open like my cohort mates here said, and it really gives you an idea of how to kind of mentally keep things in check, because if you're in a boot camp, you kind of don't know where to start. You're like, okay, we're learning this week. Do I put that in my project this week, or do I focus on current workings that are better benefited to this week? So I found Trello immensely helpful, and I have a huge list in my done that I'm like just super proud of, but my backlog, I'm constantly adding things to it. And one other thing that really helped me was the fact that early on in the cohort, we took an Agile course and got certified in the Agile mindset. Although, this project was independent, I was a one-man team, I feel like Agile definitely helped in my thought processes. My definition of done, that's one thing that I really appreciated from learning Agile is like, what do you define as done? What can be in your minimum viable product? I know 2 week is usually the interval, but I did little 1 week sprints with the time constraints. And for my product owners, I just had, my friends, people that didn't program being like, that doesn't work. This button looks ridiculous, change this. And I felt that kind of gave me some guidance that I couldn't find within, especially looking at my screen all day. I think, what I do is right, but it's good to get feedback. Yeah. So without further ado, I will go ahead and navigate over to my site, which I can totally drop in the chat if we need to. Okay, so here is my homepage. Like I said, one thing I wanted to accomplish was I wanted to make this whole idea of exchanging hobbies and talking to other people in your community simple. So my homepage, I try to keep it very clean cut. And early in the cohort, when we didn't learn these complex concepts yet, I felt like I really focused on my UX, and I'm super proud of it. Up at the top here, you'll see my navigation bar. It is like sticky with page, so as you scroll down, you'll find that it goes with you. I have a hamburger drop down here to kind of navigate the site. Profile, obviously we're not logged in yet, so we're gonna have to log in. View habitat, that is kind of like viewing the other users in your community. We're not logged in yet, so it's gonna tell you, hey, log in. But I'll get to that later. So let's go back to the home screen. I didn't want to I played around with the idea of doing like a how-to kind of instructional thing, but I figured I wanted to keep it simple. So if you scroll down, I pretty much give you some basic instructions of how to use the app, and I try to design my UX in a way that kind of just informs you how to use it. So you have some pictures, little design here. Yeah. And then in my footer, since this is not for a company or anything, I decided to just showcase myself. So these are all links to my, professional sites that you can kind of visit. Let's go back to the top. Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's show you the sign up feature first. Let's create a user. Okay, so can anybody give me like a celebrity, somebody to make an account for?
We've had Arnold already. I'm trying to think of something.
We have done Arnold Schwarzenegger, so.
What about Janet Jackson?
Janet Jackson is great. Okay. JanetJ@none.com. Hopefully she won't be mad at me for using this information. Okay. Password 123456. I'll just tell you guys because we'll use it on the login later. What's your name? Okay. Janet Jackson. Where are you from? So right now, for the purpose of demo day, you're going to be viewing users just on the app in general, but eventually I'm going to pull in a zip code API like my other cohort members here and deliver other users that are in your proximity. So that's something I want to do, but for my minimum viable product, I wanted to actually show you some users, so I did not implement that yet. So we are just going to put, does anybody know where she's from? The Jackson's LA, right?
Sounds right.
Maybe not originally, I don't know though. Yeah, so my profile photos, they are URLs right now. I would like to be able to allow you to do just any JPEG or PNG, just because like I've made this web responsive for iPhone 6 through XR, and I want you to be able to like click photos in your gallery. So for the purpose of demo day, we're going to use URLs. That looks like a good one. Okay. So for your profile photo, you're going to show a picture of yourself. Next, tell us about your hobbies. I am a Grammy Award-winning singer. What is something that you guys could see Janet Jackson doing on the side as her hobby? What is she on this app to explore? I'll take anything.
Fly fishing.
Hoping to increase my skill set with a fellow fisher. Yeah, there we go. Share some pictures. Let's get some fly fishing pictures. So this is where you would show pictures of your hobby. So they can have you in it, but it's more about, you know, what you're doing. So if you're an artist, please show your work. You know, if you're a writer, show some stuff on there. And we're just going to make this profile on the fly. Okay, on the fly, get it? Yeah, I will say, Johan, when you're on Zoom, slows that internet down. Just a tad. Okay, just one more. Let's just imagine this picture is Janet Jackson. Okay, so share case, some links. Let's just put her Instagram on there for now, but I've kind of put some app icons that I think resonate with showing hobbies and showing, you know, showing creativity and stuff. So I have Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and a designated spot for like another website too. And on your profile, I'll show you in a second where those go. What hobbies are you looking to exchange? I also wouldn't mind learning. Oh, accidentally. My internet's being slow, so sorry if I'm returning spaces. I wouldn't mind learning poetry. Something. Okay. And if you say that you already have an account, I'll show you in a second, but that would take you to the login. So let's sign this person in and put them in the database. So right there when I clicked create profile or sign up, the user was authenticated in Firebase. That is the database I used. Eventually, I want to be able to build my own database and be able to authenticate and everything with Express and Node. So we learned that at the tail end of the class to get a bulk of my work done. I used Firebase for the purpose of this. I was able to do it and not have it crash with my data, like kind of like Johan. I didn't have vast amounts of data. It's all user-based. So I used Firebase for this. So after they're authenticated, it's also in the database, all of this information right here. And it was really cool. One thing I had a lot of fun with was making functions to tie authentication with database retrieval and everything. So yeah, as you can see here, here is Janet Jackson's profile. So we've got our images there. These will resize anywhere. Name, location, edit profile. I'll show you what this one is in a second, but that's where you would view your schedule. And you can sign out right here. And as you can see, these areas that we kind of populated are there. And if we click on Janet Jackson's Instagram, it will take us to her Instagram. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna sign out and log back into Janet Jackson. janetj@none.com, I think was what we used. If not, I can sign in as The Rock too. Okay, great. Okay, so we're on the same page. We just authenticated again. We retrieved Janet Jackson's database, and we've put it in the state of our single page application. So our computer, our browser, it knows that Janet Jackson is signed in. So with that, we are going to view Janet Jackson's community. Oh my gosh, Tom York of Radiohead. How did he get on here? Yeah, so here's Tom's page. And right here, Tom is not authenticated. He's not signed in, but we retrieved his database information, and he's in a store of the other user that you're viewing. So eventually, with that technology, I'm going to be able to have you chat with him. So if we wanted to chat, what we would do, we can keep clicking next if we want. There's Beyonce, Anthony Kiedis, St. Vincent. Okay, she's a fashion designer. She may not be a fly fishing person, but let's say I'm interested in fashion too. So I, Janet Jackson, want to talk to Annie Clark of St. Vincent. What I would do, I would click the chat button right here. But, however, here's the caveat. I want to do the chat function right. I want to do it justice. And I wanted to focus on what I could get done with the curriculum for this app. So I will be building a chat functionality, especially using Express once we learn it after this cohort. but for my minimum viable product, I was happy doing all these functions with authentication in the database to kind of build the personality of my site and get it going. So I know what to do now, and it will happen. So yeah, that's why I have this Leo Tolstoy quote there. So yeah, just to prove we're authenticated, you can go back to the profile. Let's say we want to view the community again. And with Taylor, let's say we want to do that. It's going to do that again. So another thing you can do eventually will be to view your chats. And also you'll be able to see your scheduled exchanges. So once you schedule with these people, hypothetically, that you're like, yeah, let's meet up on Tuesday or whatever, you can keep a schedule. I do want to get that hooked up to Google Calendar. So that's in the works as well. Lastly, I have a form that I've added just to kind of get feedback for the site and that agile mindset. I want to be able to keep growing, and there's things that I want to do that I have in the backlog, but by all means, if you're viewing my site and I don't know, this doesn't work, or I wish this was this much smaller, I want to be able to know that. So with Form Spree, I've hooked up feedback. You can give the reason for your thing or other, and write a message, submit. Yeah, and it would go to my email currently. I'll probably get a professional email, but that way I can gather that feedback. Okay. So that is Habitat. Just a little bit about the process. Obstacles I overcame, time constraints. So right now I feel like everybody's feeling this, but with family being home all the time due to COVID-19 and my work schedule, I work full time and I'm a supervisor. So I have those extra duties too. Logging into night class has been fun, but I can't tell you that I'll miss it after these 13 weeks. I will stay up continually coding at night, but it'll be nice not to have to be in front of people, prettying myself up. Chat functionality, that was an obstacle. Like I said, it's not done yet, but I know that I want to delve deep into Node and Express because it was at the back end of the class. And to do it justice, I feel like my chat functionality is going to be a great kind of instrument to get better at those things. The heavy product backlog completed in the last weeks of curriculum. All of this database retrieval, these functions to populate things, functions to edit, just anything CRUD was kind of in the tail end of this course. And I had an idea of how things worked, but I just did some UX and UI and I was like, we're gonna get it done, and that's what we did. And also Firebase's limitations. You can actually, I researched this, build chat functionality in Firebase with, making objects and keys and everything, and updating who's most recent in like an exchange. But it's incredibly just like not the way to do it. So I did not do it for this because, like I said, I want to do it in Express. And one of the biggest things I'm proud of for this is my adversity over all these obstacles to understand object-oriented and functional JavaScript. I feel like I played with a little bit of both in my JavaScript. And as you can see from kind of my GitHub repo here, you can see that I did 75% of my project in JavaScript. And I think that number is even higher after the changes I made last night. So this thing that I knew nothing about, I'm just super proud that I was able to learn it 4 nights a week, 3 hours a day, the last 13 weeks. So what's next for my app? The bugs and features not fixed in the MVP. So for instance, those buttons and icons for Instagram, Facebook, and all that, those don't disappear if you don't populate them. So you could be on my app and you could say like, here's my Instagram, but I don't care about any of the others. I don't even have a Pinterest. I want that to not be there. So I'll probably do some ternaries to kind of see what's populated and what's not, and then remove them from the site. That was something I found out late, close to demo day, as in probably yesterday. And I was like, you know what? Minimum viable product, got to do other things, agile mindset. I want to build a database in Express. I want to add that chat functionality. I already touched on those. The schedule functionality with Google Calendar. That's one that I haven't researched heavily yet, but I know it's doable. And then, like I said, I kind of showed you an array of random users that have signed up for the site just for the purpose of demo day, since there's, not a community yet. But eventually I want location services to pair you with in-range users that you've pre-selected what you're comfortable with. And then this is web responsive on the browser for iPhone 6, 7, 8, X, and XR. But I would love to learn how to make an iOS app. So Swift or any other mobile language that I could explore that possibility with would be fantastic. So eventually I want to take it there when it's completed. So what's next for me? And outside of my project, what's next for me? I want to learn and do projects in React, vanilla JavaScript. It's fun, but you know, I won't miss you. I want to learn a framework, and React's the way to do it in 2020. More Node and Express projects. Not only do I want to add that those kind of ideas into my site, I want to continue to do several projects to kind of get really acquainted with them. And then I kind of did a little arrow chart here, but keep coding. After this class, probably tomorrow, I'll be working on this, and then I'll do a little list of next ideas. I even have some people in the cohort that I'm like, I like what you did in yours. I would love to use that in mine. After class, can I please talk to you about geolocation? I think Lauren heard me talk about that. A junior dev job. I would love, as soon as I get on my feet here, to land a junior dev job. You know, it doesn't have to be the whatever company that's my dream job, but I want to start coding professionally. I want to take, like in the spirit of my app, my hobby into a reality. Code some more even after I have the job, learn new things, even if it's, you know, Python and I'm front end solely at work. And I want to benefit the community. So eventually when one day I'm a senior developer, I want to be able to work for causes, startups, whatever my mood is, that I think are generally good for society, because I feel like programming is an instrument to kind of make society better. It's not just a fun thing. There's so many capabilities, and I would love to be able to help like the good folks at Boeing or places like that have a mission. So without further ado, I'd like to leave the floor open to you all. Thank you for enjoying my app. Thank you all for being here, piggybacking off the rest of my cohort. Could not appreciate this more, and it's such a fitting into this 13 weeks.
So Drake, first off, well done.
Thank you.
I did want to tell you, you might want to take a look at something like Flutter when you start diving into the mobile development. It's
Flutter.
Yeah, really nice framework.
Okay.
And it's cross-platform, which is
so it's good for like iOS and Android.
Yes.
Great.
So I really like your layout and your UI. It was very simple. It was very clean. I'm curious. You mentioned several times, you know, doing the chat functionality. Did you have any specific ideas about how you were going to address that, and have you thought about using something like WebSockets for that?
Yeah, there's a WebSocket.io for chat functionality that me and my TA were kind of tossing around and everything. And I read over it and all of that, but with our database functionality, the time constraints, we decided do the chat after class. So I could even start it tomorrow. But yes, like a socket, that would be a great, great idea. Express, I more so want to build my database in to replace Firebase. Just because, you know, Firebase is great, but it has its limitations. And if I ever want to get to a lot of data, I'd like to be able to do it locally in a PostgreSQL database. Thank you for the feedback, though.
Drake, I had a question more from like a safety issue. You know, a lot of times, people want to feel comfortable or at ease. You know, the Craigslist stuff kind of can feel a little intimidating. And I know you're kind of moving into that kind of Bumble or Tinder dating app kind of concept. Are there going to be, or maybe down the line, where you're able to see like how other people are connected, so you would feel more at ease from a hobby standpoint? I know you have the socials or the different links for Instagram and stuff on there too, but has that been something you thought about, maybe just overall safety?
Yeah, so I would say going forward in a world where I have users in the community that are frequently meeting and everything, definitely Reddit's a great example, but maybe a little more in depth. There should be some type of karma system, because you don't want to be meeting somebody that, you know, may have a fake profile or anything. So safety is definitely a concern. I think I think like LinkedIn and Facebook have done great jobs kind of showcasing like what the average person looks like. So I would play around with my UX and what qualifies for me as a trustworthy person in a website, but I would definitely implement more than just your 4 websites that you have. I would like your history. How many people have you matched with? What is your karma on the site? Like, have people had a good time learning woodworking? Or are they like, this guy, made me build some stairs that broke my grandmother's back or something. I don't know. But there definitely would be a system to kind of monitor who you trust. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, queries, quandars?
Okay, awesome, Drake. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Like I said, thank you for your feedback and thank you for being here.
Awesome, great job. Well, thank you guys for joining us on Demo Day. I know a couple of you, it was your first time, but just to reiterate, most of these folks don't have any IT experience and they're coming into a 12-week boot camp. Then we stretch an extra week out of that for Demo Day and us helping them get their capstone projects, which is what you viewed ready on that 13th week. So the first, I think, 10 weeks is nothing but learning all of this stuff. And then the last 2 weeks is building these capstone projects. So from absolutely nothing, no experience, to what they presented to you today. So we appreciate all of your time this afternoon. I think you guys should have received resumes of these 3. There should be links to their projects. If there's anyone that you want to follow up with, just letting Lane or Des or I know, and Lori. And yeah, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. And great job to Johan, Drake, and Lauren. Should be very proud.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good job, guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great job, everybody.
Great job.
Everybody, great job.
Awesome. All right.
Perfect.
Well, we will say goodnight to everybody, and I hope you all have a wonderful long weekend.
You too. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Night.
Have a good one, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Bye.